Well, good morning, and we appreciate all of you being here, and we'll jump right into it. There's a couple of topics that we want to talk about today, and we have some friends here to help us. You may have noticed that we have some new bus shelters around the core of our city. The bus shelters that were put in last June were scattered around the downtown area. These shelters are great places for our passengers to wait on buses in a comfortable setting. And recently we've made some new additions to those bus shelters with some signage and some other things to promote our system. And with us here today to talk about all of that signage and what they're doing with those shelters is Jeff Fleur with our Downtown Development Corporation. So Jeff, I'm going to turn the podium over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. And I think at this time, if I can work with you, we'll unveil. You can help me there. It's supposed to be real simple, so we'll do this. Yeah, LaVonta and James, if you want to come and help us too.
You want to pull some of the others off, or you want to do them one at a time?
That's fine. They can do them at the same time. We can pull them all off. 1, 2, 3, 4. There you go. Fantastic. Thank you. Well, Mayor, thank you, and Councilwoman Williams and Councilman Clendenin, thank you for allowing us to be with you today to unveil these new advertising signs working in our downtown area. On behalf of the Downtown Development Corporation, it's a pleasure to continue to work with the city to move our downtown forward. Today's another example, if you will, the transformations underway in our downtown. This campaign actually was designed by two people in our staff, Megan Hartzell and Andy Kim, who actually derived, working with transit, a new campaign that's actively going to promote all the different activities, the vibrancy of our downtown area. We appreciate the opportunity to work with Steve Spade and his staff in the partnership to be able to utilize the transit shelters in this way. Steve is truly taking transit to a new level, and I know that he's already working on some other great initiatives that are related to downtown and the transit line, the Q line, that will be coming forward later. But today is part of an announcement of 3 pilot projects that we're going to be doing in the downtown area during 2017. In a few short months, transformations will occur along Douglas Avenue through another partnership with the city. The Douglas streetscape will be transformed, if you will, with numerous planters, with seasonal plantings that we'll do 4 different times during the year, working really to create Wichita's own magnificent mile. We're also working with creative placemaking projects, very similar to the pop-up urban park that we have on Douglas Avenue. Those are going to be designed to really, again, bring in creative, active ways for streetscape, but also our parks. So be watching for that in the coming weeks and months. You know, this is an incredible time in downtown's development. We appreciate the partnership with the city and transit to continue its transformation. This is Wichita's time. And so we look forward to working with you, Mayor, and the City Council in accelerating what is underway to continue to have Wichita be that great city in the Midwest. So, sir, thank you so much.
Thank you. I hope we're not having to pay some of this talent that you have in some of these displays here.
Well, actually, one of the things I wanted to note is that we're looking for talent as we go forward because we're going to change these out 4 times a year.
Oh, fantastic.
So you may be on Douglas Avenue.
Fantastic.
Thank you, sir.
I jumped right over him, but Steve Spade, our transit director, is here, and I didn't know, Steve, if you had anything to add, or you'll just wait for questions? All right, so come up with your questions for Steve Spade. I apologize. We tend to take him for granted, and he does a wonderful job with our transit department. We're going to figure out how to fix transit in a permanent fashion here very soon, and Steve's going to be part of that solution. And so we appreciate you and apologize for taking you for granted. We have some information that we want to talk about for our fire academy. And we have some folks that are with us here this morning to talk about the Citizens Academy. These academies are there to teach regular citizens about fire safety and what they can do for our community. Applications are now open for Fire Camp 2017. The camp is a one-day camp that is for this one-day camp for 6th through 9th graders to get an up-close and personal look into firefighting. Activities include a search maze, a combat challenge, high angle rappelling, bucket brigade, and more. And here to tell us a little bit more about this, and we'll see if I can pronounce his last name, is Lieutenant Jose Ocadiz.
That's close enough, sir.
Close enough. Lieutenant, tell us how to pronounce your last name.
Ocadiz.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Yes, the Wichita Fire Department.
Spanish translation.
Ocadiz. The Wichita Fire Department would like to announce two good opportunities for citizens and also students that are in the grades of 6th through 9th grade at the fire camp. I'm going to briefly discuss about our Citizen Fire Academy, which is scheduled for April 4th through June 20th. The Academy was designed to have a better understanding of what fire and emergency medical operations and for citizens to have an interaction with the local fire department firefighters. The Wichita Fire Department will basically have a class every Tuesday from 6 to 9 from the dates of April 4th through June 20th, and topics in the Academy will cover the history of the Wichita Fire Department, which this year will be 131 years old, and also community risk reduction, fire prevention, fire investigation, hose evolutions, search and rescue, CPR. We're going to be able to explain to you all the different facets of what the fire department, as the big umbrella, is able to be able to protect and for the citizens of Wichita. If you would like to register, you can register at the City of Wichita website, wichita.gov, and click on the link of the Wichita Fire Department, and you'll have a direct application online. Here to discuss about the fire camp for the youth will be Wichita Fire Department Clarence Moore and Sedgwick County Fire Department Bill Hinkle.
Good morning. As Lieutenant Ocadiz said, we're here to talk about fire camp. Fire camp's been ongoing in our community since around 2005. It started out with Sedgwick County Fire out in the county, and we moved it in and got in a partnership with Wichita Fire, with the Kansas Firefighters Museum, and a host of other sponsors. Derby Fire, McConnell Fire has joined our program. And basically what it is, it's a one-day thing for students in grades 6 through 9 that to come out and get to do things that we as firefighters get to do on a daily basis in the completion of our job. As the mayor said, some of the things are a search maze. They get shown some water rescue techniques. The combat challenge is always a big one with the kids. They get to actively put on fire gear and participate in some events that we would do. We're going to take the first 120 people that register. Last year we had about 80 that registered. We're hoping to bump our number up to about 120 this year. We've added another group of sponsors, as you can see on our board over here. We have Firehouse Subs with us, Mel Hamilton Ford, Walgreens, Walmart, the Salvation Army, Derby Fire, McConnell Fire, Sedgwick County Fire, Wichita Fire, the Fire Reserves, the Explorers, Butler County Community College Fire Science Program, Hutchinson Community College Fire Science Program, and we host firefighters from all across the state that come in and help us with this one-day event. Registration is open now and will close on April 1st. And to register, they can go to www.kansasfirefightersmuseum.com. And we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Well, thank you. You may have some more questions at the
Thank you,
end.
Mayor.
And sorry that I kind of threw everyone off. There's two things going on, the Fire Academy and then this opportunity for these high school students. Usually I'm not off my game this much when we talk about the fire department because they're supposed to bring in the retired fire dog to calm us all down, and they didn't do that today. My understanding is the fire dog is in the dog house, which we're going to probably place whoever was in charge of bringing that fire dog down here in the same dog house. Don't let it happen again.
Works for me, I'm always in the doghouse.
One more topic that we want to share this morning, and we've said that we're going to keep you updated on changes, traffic changes, road construction and such. And we have some notes here. Gary Jansen came down to answer any questions. He's certainly not here just to look pretty. We want to talk about the continuing improvement on East Kellogg, where we are making some major renovations. Beginning February 20th, Wichita Motors will face 3 major traffic changes on the expanded East Kellogg Freeway as it progresses. The ramp from eastbound K96. That's almost going southbound at that point. Thank you. Onto westbound Kellogg will be closed for the rest of the duration of that expanded freeway project. So what really would be described as southbound 96 onto westbound Kellogg, that will be closed for the duration of that project. Kellogg traffic between Zelta and K96 will be reduced to 1 lane each direction through late March, then switch to 1 westbound and 2 eastbound lanes through the fall of 2018. These lanes are also going to be restricted to 11 feet in width. And so it's going to be a significant change from what motorists are used to commuting on. And finally, the 127th Street connection to East Kellogg will be permanently closed. There will no longer be a connection at 127th Street. So that will be permanently closed. Councilmember Meitzer, our public works professionals, have gotten multiple calls about these traffic changes. As you can understand the concern, we know that construction will continue to be a hassle. We ask you for your patience, and we hope that we're giving people ample time to change their routes and encourage them to add a little more time to their commutes so that they don't get too frustrated. Finally, I just want to share with you that one of our officers, Brian Atterburn, a 25-year veteran with the department, obviously was injured on the line of duty this past week. I want to urge the community to keep him and his family in your thoughts and prayers. City employees are encouraged to wear black and blue Friday to show support for Brian, and we'd welcome the whole city to join us in showing support for Brian Atterburn and his family by wearing black and blue this Friday. And at that, we will open it up for any questions that you may have this morning.
Well, one thing I wanted to ask you, unrelated to some of the topics, has to do with something that you had said on a local radio sports show this week, updating the status of Lawrence-Dumont Stadium. That
right.
In 2018, there may be ground broken on a new stadium, and
so sure, be happy to. We are in the process of putting together all of the finance packages needed to build a new Lawrence-Dumont Stadium. What we recognize now is there's really nothing to save over there. The concrete is literally crumbling. The infrastructure that is in place, whether it's the plumbing, the bathrooms, and all of that behind the scenes, is in really bad shape. Lawrence-Dumont Stadium was built in like 1935 as a government works project, and it's beyond tired. And we are looking at an opportunity to totally replace that with development that will happen all around it. We have put in for STAR bonds. The state has at least approved that STAR bond district. There's multiple steps that have to take place before we get the financing to move forward. The goal is that we eventually will hire an architect sometime this year, start with the plans, and hopefully can break ground sometime in 2018. We don't know yet if we're going to lose a season in 2018 or 2019, so we don't have that schedule laid out for us yet in terms of, do we lose a baseball season? We're in talks with some other facilities around the area. If we do lose a season or have to move some events, we will figure that out as we move forward. But looking forward to that entire river corridor improvement that's going to take place in the core of our city that's, we believe, going to be pretty dynamic and a tremendous opportunity to see our city grow in a different fashion. And it's just one element of quality of life that we believe will make a difference for everyone in the region.
Could that also mean losing a season of the NBC?
What we would do is move the NBC to another facility, and so we will not lose a season for the NBC. We may have to move them to another venue for 1 year.
X Stadium? Or,
Well, that's the most logical choice, and we've had some preliminary conversations with our friends out there at WSU, and it makes sense. X Stadium is at that point in the year totally vacant and not being utilized, and so it would be a natural fit to move it over there. And well, like I said, we've had some very, very preliminary talks about what that would look like. But at this point, we don't know which season might move over there. We do have a couple of the NBC board members, Levanta Williams and Pete Meitzner, and I don't know if there's anything to add to that at this point.
We have a meeting today.
Do you?
so what you're talking about would be raising what is there.
Correct.
But that site would still be the site for the new stadium.
And we haven't decided yet. The site itself would still be the site for a new stadium. What we have not decided yet, does the stadium go exactly where the old stadium is, or could it shift one direction or another to make room for development to happen around it? Do we move it away from McLean? Do we move it closer to McLean? Do we move it away from Maple? And so there's a lot of discussion that needs to take place with the potential development, with the architecture, with what we're trying to build. One component that will happen with this new stadium, there will be a National Baseball Congress Museum that will be a part of this new facility over there that we haven't had. It will be a museum that's open 12 months out of the year. It'll be interactive. Very well could have some other components to it, like a restaurant or something of that nature that overlooks the stadium. We don't know where to put that at in relationship to the stadium yet. Do we park it near the outfield? Do we park it near one of the third or first base sides of the field? And so there's a tremendous amount of design and discussion and development that we have to sit down and visit with, because it's going to be paid for primarily with star bond proceeds, which requires a sales tax component. So we want to encourage development that has a sales tax component to that entire development. We also know that that development will include a pedestrian bridge to connect to the convention center side of the river. The bridge will go about halfway between Douglas and Maple, right there along the McLean Boulevard section. And it will be another wonderful piece to the core of our city. There's some talk to make the pedestrian bridge a kind of a draw for the community, a gathering spot, if you will, and some features that will add to that. So,
With the star bonds, help me out here to understand, is that something that, do you have to have any kind of legislative approval, or is it simply something the council approves, or what?
We have legislative approval today, and so star bonds are still in play today. There is some conversation about that could change, or what they look like could change. But our goal is to get this project to the point where future legislation really won't have an impact on these star bonds. We don't know yet. We're still working our way through the process. We are in constant talks with Secretary Suave, who is Secretary of Commerce for the state of Kansas, who oversees star bonds. Eventually, we will have to submit a plan once we have the star bond money in place on eligible expenses that the state has to sign off and allow those expenses to take place. So everything that we do eventually will take some sort of state approval or sign off on what we're building and what we're using the money for.
But that can come from like the administrative level, not.
Correct.
Okay.
At this point, that comes from the administrative level.
One other question, since you raised this up, I didn't think about it. If you raised the prospect that the stadium could be built in a different area of that whole area.
Yeah,
So is
right.
it possible that a stadium could be built while the current stadium stays in service?
Yeah, I don't think the footprint's large enough to do that. There's just not quite enough room, and so there's. To answer your question, I don't believe that'll happen. Just the footprint isn't large enough. So even if we move the stadium over to a slightly different footprint than what exists today, we'll still lose a season.
And are you in negotiation with any, or the city in negotiation with any major league team?
So we've had multiple talks to several teams. Scott Rigby is here, our assistant city manager. He came from Mesa, the baseball mecca. He will tell you that when you talk about affiliated baseball and the many AAA, AA, and affiliates that they have around the country, there's always movement somewhere in those teams looking for a new stadium to play in, and so we don't know exactly yet who we ultimately will sit down and try and negotiate with. We believe there are multiple opportunities, and we've already talked to multiple teams, and we're just in the beginning stages of those conversations also. But it's exciting. It's a great opportunity to see baseball at a level that we haven't been accustomed to in a while. And we've had a good product on the field. I don't want to take anything away from the Wingnuts. They've been a talented group that have set the bar high for certainly independent baseball, and they've been tremendous family entertainment for the community. But this will change what we are trying to develop down there, and a new stadium is very attractive for teams to migrate to, and we know that we see that movement all the time. And I think we covered it. Steve, anything else on transit since I skipped over you? I mean, we are making a few changes with our transit line. Are there any significant changes for transit as we prepare for the men's NCAA tournament in 2018 that we will implement for the tournament itself? Why don't you share that, because I think that's important.
It was a perfectly timed question, as usual. We are working with downtown Wichita and Visit Wichita and local businesses to analyze the performance of the Q line and make some recommendations on how that service may be improved. And we're hoping in the next couple of weeks we'll have some recommendations on rebranding and redesigning that Q line to become a more effective way of moving around downtown. And part of the goal is to have something in place that not only engages visitors to the community, but provides a service to the residents of the community that we can have up and operating prior to the NCAA tournament next year.
Perfect.
So, thanks.
Thank you, Steve. Mm-hmm. And Van Williams, did you have some information that you wanted to hand out to people today? This pertains to the National Baseball Congress. So some information that you all get first here. And we'll give you a chance to digest that and see if you have any questions for the Vice Mayor, because she's sitting there just waiting for someone to ask her a question.
This isn't in arrears or anything like that, or is this anything different about this loan that, it's a $25,000 payment, like on a loan? Is it what-
Right. So when we initiated the transfer of ownership of the National Baseball Congress tournament to a nonprofit board of directors, which two of our council members sit on currently, we provided them some seed money for the organization to get started because they started with nothing. And because of the success that they've had in their first 2 years, they were able to provide a significant payment back to us on the loan that we had originally given to them as seed money to help us take this National Baseball Congress in a different direction than what it's been through the first 82 years. And I don't know if there's anything, I know, like I said, Levanta Williams and Councilmember Meitzner are both board members today of the National Baseball Congress. And anything to add to that, Pete?
This was the second year of operations for the NBC tournament. And the first year we were able to generate tremendous local support, enough to break even and keep us viable for the next year. It was a little scary, but the next year then we improved the quality of teams, and then obviously the Wingnets had their affiliation with the former professional guys that wanted to come to town, and that really put us more on the map. And now we have a lot of inquiries from even other countries want to, because now baseball, amateur baseball, or even pro is going to be back into the Olympics in a couple years. So now there's various countries that are interested in coming and playing, and we haven't solidified that yet, but there's a lot of interest and excitement. So we looked at the NBC, thanks to the NBC board, and as well as the affiliation with the Wingnets and the former pros, but they call themselves the Stars. So it's been kind of a fun ride right now.
Well, thank you. And just for the record, because I get asked this a lot whenever Councilmember Meissner's around, we do look alike. He is not my father. He is Councilmember Meissner. But I do get asked a lot if he's my father, and he is not. Thank you all for coming today, and enjoy your rest of your week. We should have great weather for you to get outside. Thank you.